Hi, welcome once again to the videos on positive psychology transform your life. My name is Ranjit Kovilinkal and I'm a psychotherapist. Hope you saw my last video in which I had spoken on optimism. Since it was a lengthy video extending for more than 10 minutes, here's the summary. Optimism has two schools of thought. One is dispositional optimism, which is trait level optimism, a part of your personality. And the other is explanatory style, which explains the causes of particular events. In other words, why did this event happen to us? In the explanatory style, we looked at three characteristics, and they are internal versus external, whether you attribute the event to yourself or to other situations or events, whether it is stable or unstable, whether you attribute the situation to be permanent or temporary, and global versus specific, whether you attribute the situation to be consistent and applying to all areas of your life, or it is only specific to that particular situation. Hope you also took the life orientation test, which measures dispositional optimism. I had posted the video. I had posted the link of the test in the video that I had published on Wednesday, which was the last video. To understand where you stand in your explanatory style of optimism, you can take another test, the link of which I have posted in this video. I have taken both the tests, so let us see our test results. So if you look at the dispositional style of optimism, I will share you the screen so that you can look at my test scores. So these are the scores with respect to my dispositional optimism. I have scored 21, which means to say that I am high on optimism and low on pessimism. So if you look at these tests, the test has scales, which is 0 to 13 is low optimism and high pessimism, 14 to 18 is moderate optimism, and beyond that is high optimism and low pessimism. So as per the dispositional scale, I am a highly optimistic person, which means to say that my trait level optimism is very high. Now let us look at the explanatory style of optimism. So if you look at the explanatory style, let me again share the screen. So if you look at this score in terms of optimism, the score first looks at permanence. Permanence means whether the situation is stable or unstable. So in terms of good events, which is as an optimist, how I view good events, I have scored 7. So the explanation is that people who believe good events have a permanent cause are more optimistic than those who believe have temporary causes. So which means to say that people look at permanence as optimists look at permanence as being stable. So if your score is 7 or 8, you're very optimistic. So as you can see, my score is 7, so I'm very optimistic. And in terms of bad events, my score is 0. So if you can see the interpretation of scores, if your score is between 0 and 1, again, you're very optimistic. Now, just to refresh your memory, let me share the screen of how the optimist and the pessimist looks at the good situation and bad situations. So this I had explained in the previous video. I will again put it up just to refresh your memory. So if you look at it, the optimist, how they look at a good situation. The optimist ascribes the situation to themselves. That is, it is internal, it is global, which means to say that it is consistent. It is stable, which means to say that it will persist indefinitely, and it is permanent. And how the optimist looks at a bad situation, the optimist looks at a bad situation as being external. That is, other people, events, or circumstances have contributed to the same. It is specific, which means that it is related to that particular situation, and it is unstable, which means to say that it is fleeting or temporary. Now let's again go back to the scores section. So I will again share the screen. So we have seen already permanence. which is stable versus unstable events. Now let us look at pervasiveness. So pervasiveness measures whether the event is global or specific. So in terms of pervasiveness, in terms of the bad events, I have scored 2. So if you see the interpretation of the score, if your score is 0 and 1, you're very optimistic. If your score is between 2 and 3, you're moderately so. So I'm moderately so in terms of my pervasiveness score, which measures optimism on whether it is global or specific. And if you look at the good events, I have scored 3. So if you look at it, if your score is 7 or 8, you're very optimistic. 6 is moderately optimistic. And then 4 or 5 is average. And 3 is moderately pessimistic. So as you can see, I have scored pessimistic in terms of pervasiveness, which is the characteristic of whether the situation is global or specific. And in terms of hopefulness, I have scored 8. Again, with respect to the interpretation of the scores, if your score is between 10 and 16, you're extraordinarily hopeful. 6 to 9, you're moderately hopeful. So I've scored 8, so I am moderately hopeful. So the reason I wanted to share you both these tests is to show you that even though my dispositional style of optimism is very high, it is not so when it comes to the explanatory style. The reason, again, I put across both these styles is to also let you know that optimism can be learned. There are many factors like your upbringing, for that matter, the families in which there was a high amount of discord or fighting, and lower amounts of closeness and warmth. So these children who grow up from these families, they suffer depression. So obviously, when they suffer from depression, their optimism levels is low. Cognitive therapies are ones wherein you challenge overtly negative beliefs that you have learned during your childhood, which are the main source for your pessimism. So if you are pessimistic, if you are a pessimistic person as per the test results, do consult a psychologist who can help you to learn and acquire optimism, even if it is not your trait or a part of your personality, which is dispositional optimism. When optimism increases, depression decreases. As indicated, optimism affects both our physical and psychological health. In the next video, we'll again look at optimism in terms of how it helps people in all walks of life, and also what are the potential pitfalls of being overly optimistic. And that will be part 3 of the optimistic video series. So I had covered part 1 in the last video. This is part 2, and then you will have another part in the upcoming video. If you like the video, please do click the like button. Also, please do post your thoughts, comments, and observations in the comment section. And finally, do remember to subscribe to my videos and click the bell notification if you would like to see more updates from my feed. Until then, goodbye and good luck. Cheers to learning.